button. If it fails, we'll have to relink.
Okay.
Is that live now? Oh, that I think that might have worked. Oh yeah, we're
Oh,
good.
We're good.
yeah.
Cool.
We're in, guys. We're in.
Yeah. Whoa. We are better every time. Last time we fucked up the link. Now just getting a bit of a delayed start, but now it's good. So just always better. I like it. Okay. Okay. Looks good. Where is my chat? I want the chat to be on here so I can see the live chat, but I don't have it somehow. But it's fine. I'll get it on. I guess should I do the intro? Since gonna do a bit of improvised intro here. Welcome to Gameonomics, guys. Doing a nice live stream project review today. Got the guys together. Got Marek there with Andrew Tate. He's in the bathroom. He's gonna be right with us as well. Andrew Tate, big NFL guy. You have like Roden with the project review for us. Ricky, Mr. Producer. And I'll be trying to lead the discussion here. We always do like crypto gaming stuff, Web3 gaming. We discuss a lot of cool concepts. And we do these podcasts, kind of podcast format where we present a game. Roden RDZ has a nice game for us here, a mobile game today, and we're going to discuss it. We're going to discuss general Web3 concepts, and we're going to see, is this like something we can even invest in, make money from, enjoy, just like play and like have a good time. I know RDZ, he had like a pretty nice time for at least for a week. So I am definitely curious to get into this today. I have actually one question to start things off. Do you guys, Marek, do you know the NFL rules? Do you know how NFL works?
Not really, because I'm not American and I have never been to US, so
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really.
Same here. I have no idea about the rules. So yeah, I know like you advised us to play RTZ, but yeah, I don't even know the rules of the game, so it was harder to
Yeah,
play.
I mean, look, it's NFL obviously, so it's American, and it's not something that's played by a lot of people. But I think one of the things that makes this game quite unique is that it is easy to play and get a hold of. So I know the NFL is one of those things, one of those sports where there is a lot of rules. There's a lot of stop, starting of gameplay. But yeah, NFL Rivals only takes a few minutes to play a game. I think when I played, I averaged about 2 to 4 minutes per game,
Mm-hmm.
so it's quite quick. And you get the hang of the rules quite quickly as well, because it's quite a simplified form of NFL
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
American football. So that's
How
what makes this
different?
quite interesting.
Yeah. How
Um,
different is it? Is it like NFL like football to rugby? I know rugby overall, like a bit. Like, is it like very different?
It's pretty different because you've got one person throwing the ball. So with rugby, you've got people passing it to each other. Anyone can pass the ball, really. But
Oh.
in NFL, you only really have one person handling the ball, and he's either throwing it to someone that's running into, attacking territory, or
Mm-hmm.
you're giving it to one of the guys next to him, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're running and trying to beat players with the ball in their hand. So
Oh.
there's it's quite different to rugby in that sense.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah. In general, it's not a super hard game to learn because it only has a few rules, right? Sorry. In general, it's quite complex actually in its rules, but
Yeah.
when you're playing the game for if you're viewing the game, if you're playing the game at a basic level, there's only really a few things that you need to think about. As I said, it's throwing the ball, it's either running with the ball, and then the rest is just people running into each other. So, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. I want to get a bit of a primer out there for people that don't know NFL like me and Marek. that don't follow that football, or maybe like they know a bit like of rugby. Okay.
Yeah, and this is an interesting game because obviously it's sponsored by the NFL. It was released very recently. It's one of
Okay.
those sport games which is you can play with your favorite characters. It's not just some random CPU player, computer player. You can actually go and play with your favorite players. You can play with Mahomes. You can play with who else is a Tom Brady.
Can I play
Yeah,
as
I just know
Dalton
Tom
Schultz?
Brady.
Yeah, exactly. You can play Dalton Schultz, which no one except American people know, and yeah, that sort of things. It's quite a straightforward. It's quite a good game in this sense where you actually know who you're playing with, and you can play with your favorite players. It's one of those sort of sports games, sort of similar to FIFA, NBA, and NFL Madden.
Okay. And I mean, you mentioned something pretty interesting there. Like, so how close are they to the NFL? Like you said they are sponsored by the NFL, which is
No,
like
so they've partnered with the NFL.
partnered.
If I said sponsored, that's wrong. They partnered
Yes,
with
it's
the
sponsored.
NFL. So one of the and by partnered, they're just licensed. They've got a license from the NFL, so they're officially licensed from the NFL.
Hmm.
And it's an interesting point because a lot of the time when you're looking at licensing deals, especially with big sports, you don't see many of them happen in Web3, right?
Yeah.
I think there's only one other project that has a Web3 license. Sorry, that has a license. There's a Web3 project that has a license with the NFL, and that's also an NFT project, but it's not a
Mhm.
game. It's very similar to Top Shot. So I don't know if you guys know Top Shot, NBA Top Shot, but
Sounds
they
familiar.
do what they are is they license with big leagues around the world, and then they try to get big leagues. They try to get certain video clips or moments or I guess cards you could say, and they try to put them in as an NFT form, and then they sell them as collectibles. So that's
Yeah,
the
I mean
only other partnership that they have.
you can. I think So Rare is what you're referring to, right? So Rare is
Yeah, I was thinking
effectively
so rare.
Yeah, So Rare is daily fantasy sports, but NFTs. I don't think it's like Top Shot. Top Shot's more like collecting.
No. I'm referring to a completely other project. So the NFL also has sponsored with another project. It is called, I've actually got it here. It's called NFL All Day, right? It's the same thing for NBA Top Shot except for NFL. That's what it is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's
That's okay, but that itself is kind of interesting because so like what so I want to get your opinion on this, Ricky. What do you think about this like partnership type deal? So it's actually maybe it's not even like partnership. It's talking from the perspective of like getting licensed by the NFL. How big is that in terms of like for the game? Because I think we can I want to like to get your opinion on this on like getting, I don't know, like maybe getting licensed by someone versus being a partner versus being a sponsor. And I think the big differences will come from like how big is the NFL? Like, is the NFL gonna promote the game at all? Because if it doesn't, like, is it like that impactful? So yeah, if you can talk like your opinion on like these partnerships and how impactful do you think something like this is, or maybe lack of impact? Do you think like
Well,
NFL will promote this or not?
I think with sports specifically, sporting games, it's extremely important that you have licensing. No one wants to play FIFA or NBA 2K or Madden without the actual players' names. Like the game gets a lot of value from being able to play
Yeah.
your favorite players, right? So
Yeah.
in that sense, licensing is extremely important. Whereas if you were just sponsoring or like I guess a general partnership deal, then you won't have access to those names. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a big selling point. I think another important thing is the NFL now actually has skin in the game, which is important. I believe.
Do they? Yeah. Like, do you think they have skin in the
Well,
game now?
I don't know. I mean, maybe RDZ knows this better, but I know with SoRare and stuff like that, the NBA or the football will get a percentage. So, it's in their incentives are going to align. So it's in the best interest for the NBA to promote, SoRare and whatnot. So yeah, I think that there is a significant distinction, and with you also got to remember, like, you're basically allowing another organization to control your IP to some extent, right? It's not just
Intellectual property.
Yeah,
Just right. I tried to figure that out earlier when you first said it.
Yeah. So intellectual property, I think that's probably the biggest thing, right? Whereas with a partnership, you can end the partnership and okay, sure, some people will have a bad taste in their mouth if the partnership was bad. Particularly, there's a lot of influences with NFT projects specifically, where the NFT project goes poorly, and then the person who's getting sponsored's like, "Nah, I'm out. I actually had nothing to do with it." This is a little bit different because, Mythos Games, which Artize will talk about later, they have, exclusive rights to the players' names, the logos, the branding, everything like that. So yeah, I think this is really big. Like I was surprised that the NFL would even take this leap because, this space hasn't had a great reputation, and I think it's a massive risk for the NFL, but clearly they believe that this is a market that's going to be commercially successful for them, and perhaps it's a good way for them to expand their growth because, like we spoke about earlier, American football is generally only watched by Americans. It's not really a global sport. So perhaps this is another way for them to tap into global markets.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point there with the licensing. I like it. And so exactly. I think it is relevant. Like, to what extent are like NFL backing this? So what do you think is it like, to what extent do you feel like NFL is backing this? Is it like, are they gonna promote the game? Are they gonna just financially interested?
There have been some promotions with a few players. So, for example, Travis Kelce, who's one of the stars in the NFL, plays for one of the biggest teams in the NFL. So they have been doing some promotions with a few players, like Travis Kelce. Now, I don't know if that's led by the NFL or if it's private individually. What I do know is that, look, those sort of details and those sort of things that are more specific about the two parties, I don't know. I don't know for certain. That I don't even think that's information that they've released. What we've got to remember is this also a very new game. It's a new sort of venture. It hasn't been out for long. Hasn't been in development for long either. So there's
tell
a
us
lot
that.
of unknowns.
Just actually go a bit into it. Like, so let's transition a bit to like, what are they trying to accomplish with this game? Like, we know, okay, like NFL, it is like licensed by them. You can play with your favorite players. It is a mobile game. Like, what do we know about it? And what is it trying to address? What is it trying to do?
Yeah, look, I think for a background for you guys, we need to go back a little bit further and talk about a bit of background on the industry, right? So mobile gaming in general, its revenue was 110 billion in 2022. On average, people spend 3 hours, 15 minutes on their phones every day. They check their phones 58 times. So we can already see from those stats, very significant space, very significant industry that is bringing in a lot of revenue, right? And they've been around for a while. We know the impact of apps, but it is still a significant target market. And at the moment, users are spending lots of money. As I said, 110 billion. And they don't actually keep any of that, right? So it's all used in game to upgrade game-related assets, and you can't trade it, you can't collect it, you can't do anything in a personal way. So
you're basically paying for entertainment, right? You would say
paying for entertainment, exactly. And to top it all off as well, these apps are usually very, very free. Like, you just go on, you download a free app, and then all these other extras are added on top as microtransactions. So you're paying for the entertainment, you're paying for in a lot of cases on these apps time. You're paying to save time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what these guys are proposing is to play these app games that are addictive and they're fun and they're quick, but the money that you're spending, which, as I said, can quite significant for a lot of people. I've heard stories of hundreds and thousands of dollars being spent on these microtransaction games. Instead of spending this money and not having access to a secondary market, what NFL Rivals does is it says we're going to build a game that offers you NFL licensed collectibles and players that you can play this fun, quick game on your phone. And then you can also trade and buy and sell some of these cards, which, as you guys all know, in the sports collectible market is a big thing. You know, you have NBA, NFL, football cards that are traded on the daily between individuals, and I'm talking the physical cards. And I know this is very big, particularly in America, which is why you see a lot of records being broken for, you know, baseball cards from the 1950s and NBA rookie cards.
Funnily enough, I do have a Damian Lillard player card that is nicely enclosed in a glass case. Thank you to my friend Daniel for getting that for my birthday.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely I've got one of those.
You're welcome. No problem.
And there you
Ricky.
go. You got nerds like Ricky that have it like enclosed and signed and fucking mint condition. So you have a big market for this that already exists.
But do you think, okay, quick question there. Do you think the trading aspect, the collectible aspect can take off without the game taking off? Or do you think it relies on the success of
I personally think that eventually it will, right? Eventually it will. I think the digital collectibles is only a natural sort of progression of collectibles in general, because at the end of the day, when you can organize things online, when you can organize things on a computer, you save a lot of time, you save a lot of energy, and also verification purposes. I know Scuzz is a big supporter of digital collectibles for the reason of verification. So instead of having to go and send it to some third party to verify that it's a fucking 10 out of 10 Pokemon card, or it's a 5 out of 10 condition, or whatever it may be, you have a verification on chain that cannot be faked. It cannot be duplicated. It's there for everyone to see as well, and you can see its history as well. So this is only a natural progression, in my opinion. Now, in terms of what's going to happen before that, you definitely need a game. You're not going to convince people to have these digital collectibles online without some sort of incentive to have them online. And they will eventually see the benefits of having digital collectibles once they get into the space. And I think games are a great way for them to get in and realize how awesome it is to have a lot of your collectibles and assets online. So that's one of the reasons why this is really interesting, because as I said, there's already an existing market. You combine that with how big apps are, especially mobile gaming on apps, and how much money is spent. You put them together, and then you offer people a secondary market, which is safe, and it has a lot of ease of access, you could say. And then you've potentially got a pretty nice recipe for success. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like this project as well. Even without the game component, just looking at how they've constructed it seems to be on the right track.
Okay. Dushan in the chat here. Shout out to Dushan. Hello, JD Steele. Said, like, I want actually a really, really good game before I want to get collectible NFTs. So yeah, I think this is an interesting topic, where that's why I asked, where I think there's a distinction between like having just like a digital collection, just for the sake of being a collectible, like Bored Apes, which eventually became they want to build a game around it, whatever, like the Punks and whatever. So you have just like a pure collection, but then you have like games that incorporate the collection aspect and element. And Dushan, like, I kind of agree with Dushan there. Like, I think if the game doesn't take off, I don't think the collectible and trading aspect of it can take off. If like the game is like the main thing, because okay, like you can clarify, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like the main thing that we are seeing here, the main thing that is being sold is the game. And the trading is integrated. It's like part of the game, the collectible and trading. What's your view on that, Ricky? What do you think? Like, do you think in terms of like this scenario, do you think the collectible aspect can take off if the game is bad, or do you think it will heavily rely on the game being good and the
I
dub?
think specifically with sports, I think you can get away with just having NFTs as collectibles. We see that with
Yeah, but
NBA
that's
Top
a
Shot
different
is-
strategy, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, specifically for this project, no, I don't think it would. But I think if they were to say, like, let's say the game was shit and then they wanted to transition away and they just wanted to be purely digital assets, I think
Yeah.
they could do okay. I don't think they're not going to kill it, but I think they're going to do okay just because if you look at NBA Top Shot, it's just literally like small clips, images of famous basketball players who, doing something cool. They're rare, blah, blah, blah. And they've been around for a while. I actually think NBA Top Shot has they originally executed really well, but they executed their blockchain elements really poorly. They made it really difficult to on and off ramp, which I think was one of the big reasons why they didn't mega pop off. But yeah, I would agree for NFL Rivals specifically, the game is going to be super important because I don't think it will just get enough exposure without the game being good. Whereas, Top Shot came out first mover advantage, I guess, and was like, hey, we actually got an official license. NBA is pushing this product and we have sick dunks, blocks, 3-pointers of the best players in the world, and it's rare. So yeah, I would say the game is going to be important for NFL Rivals specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yeah.
for what it's worth, as I said, I think the game is always going to be very, very important in the short term. You're not going to convince people to play or engage with digital collectibles because of the reputation that it has, right? So and yeah, so we got a question again. Why would I want collectible NFT and NFL NFTs just to collection instead of real NFL cards that people already trade and have really big community and market? So as I said earlier, when you look at digital collectibles, there are some advantages that you really can't deny, right? And I think that eventually evolution says that it's going to go digital because it's easier to organize, right? And as I said, this is one of the things that Ricky likes the most about digital collectibles as well. It is very easy to verify, right? So I can verify exactly what that card that is. I know its history. I know where it's been. I know which collection it's from. Now, all of these things in the current market are actually quite inefficient. I've got to get my Pokemon card, for example. I've got to send it to some third party guy, and he's going to send it back to me and then say, oh, it's verified at a 9 out of 10. You don't need to do that with the digital space. It's already there. It already gives you the information. That information is always there. So it's going to make the market more efficient. It's going to make the market more safe. So eventually, that's why digital NFL cards will be the new will be the new NFL trading cards. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It's just a natural evolution, technology improving the space. Also, another thing, cards get damaged. They get lost.
Unless
so
they
of course
are
that
in
adds
a
to its rarity.
glass case.
Yeah, unless they're in a glass case in a safe, right? So I guess that adds to the whole rarity, all that sort of stuff. But that's not it's not efficient. As I said, it's not efficient to have a system where cards can be lost, cards can be damaged, cards can be scammed, cards can be duplicated, cards can it's not efficient. And so eventually it's going to come to the point it might do that in 50 years, it might happen in 5, I don't know. But for now, the only way you're going to get people to come and buy NFL digital cards is that they can use them in a game. I think that's without question, that's the way that it's going to work, and that's what NFL Rivals is trying to do, right? They're not just releasing NBA Top Shot or NFL whatever I said the other partnership was, NFL All Day or NFL Top Shot, which is purely just digital NFTs and digital cards. They have no other use for it. There's no way you can play them. It's just purely for putting it in your digital collection and looking at it and sharing it with your friends, blah, blah, blah. So
Which
Just,
is a proven
NFL
concept as well, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Just
Ricky.
one other thing with the yeah, I agree with the community, but I think the communities, particularly online, are growing. I mean, after I didn't realize how big the Pepe meme community was. I thought that was until RDZ did the video on it, and I edited the video and listened to him 100 times explaining Pepe's community. I was quite shocked. I was like, how the fuck is there a community around Pepe the meme? Like, that's ridiculous. But that once again goes to show like the advancements of technology. People are, you know, the communities are being built online more so than in your physical community. I mean, whether that's a good thing or bad thing for humankind, that's a different conversation. But and then one other thing as well, like this, I'm speaking purely from my experience. If one of my favorite basketball players, Damian Lillard, put out an NFT, I sure as hell will buy it. I don't give a shit what it's doing. I will buy it because I like Damian Lillard merchandise. So that's another reason why I think those collectibles will work, particularly with big names. It doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what it does. It's like, oh, I've got Damian Lillard's NFT. And then, you know, something that we did see, unfortunately, there's a lot of scams and stuff with NFT projects, but I literally just on my Twitter feed 20 minutes ago, Cristiano Ronaldo NFT holders got to have like a 5-minute conversation with Ronaldo as a perk. So like,
Whoa.
you know, it can be done.
Crazy.
It can be done. So
crazy.
you know what I mean? Those kind of things exist. I don't know how many Cristiano Ronaldo's. Oh, okay, he's already had it since 2021. Dame time. Yeah, so I do think. Look, I'm not saying that. I think the game will do better overall, but I'm saying that I think specifically with sports, NFT collectibles specifically could potentially work, and we've seen that with NBA Top Shot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we definitely have like proof of concept, like NFTs, like purely for the collectible aspect working, not even being tied to any specific industry or thing, like with this whole like, again, I feel like the crypto punks, like the Bored Apes are like, you know, like just ETH lizards. It's like being just like a made up community. And then like the community forms around that. But especially when you have like like an already existing community to market to, like, yeah, the Damian Lillard fans here, then it's even easier and maybe makes even more sense, the collectible aspect. And I think, yeah, all of us here are on the same page, like very bullish on collectibles in general, transitioning to online, to the digital environment, and the blockchain being a very good facilitator in that. But let's go on and like talk more about the game. So RTZ, like, you kind of like mentioned there with the mobile industry being so big. So you're saying basically they are trying to tap into that. Like, what is what do you feel like is their game plan here? What is like the value they are bringing? Because we have the collectible aspect that we can trade. We have the partnership there, the licensing. What else do you think they are bringing here?
I think those are two very important ones, and I would say that they're the main ones because, as I said, $110 billion people spend, and how many dollars do they retain? Zero. So that is all money that is made by the companies, which is fair enough because they develop these games, they entertain people. But imagine the amount of money that they can also make in secondary markets, right? And also the advantage that provides for people to be able to buy and sell, and that's a game in itself, right? Some people they are engaging in collectibles not only because they like the collectibles, but also it's a game, right?
Yeah.
You go and you buy things, you sell things, and you try to upgrade and you trade. So these are all things that these guys are trying to tap into with NFL Rivals. And I think one of the biggest ways that you can also see the value that they bring to people on apps is also in its gameplay itself. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's not complicated like maybe some of the other sporting games on an app. Generally speaking, when you grab your phone and you want to play an app, you're not looking at complexity, right? So maybe some people are, but for me personally, when I'm grabbing my phone, it's small screen. Some phones can't handle big complicated games as well.
Yeah.
But just even even if it could handle it, you don't want to be playing a PC game or a console game on a phone. And the reason why I say that is because I can just go and play it on my PC or my
So you're saying
my
kind of
console.
the mechanics of it should be like simple but engaging. It should not be too
Correct.
many mechanics, too many like details to keep track of or whatever, because you're playing, you're basically playing like a simplified experience of the full game, right? Like of a PC game on mobile. And
Yeah. You're almost playing like an arcade game. That's how I view these app games, right? It's arcade style. It's you go to the arcade or pinball machine areas, and you play these simple but straightforward and entertaining. And some of them are based off of large, massive games, and you can go there and you can play little brief versions of them. And that's what I see apps
yeah,
as being, right? I
yeah,
see that as being the most successful business model. Now, I'm not a professional when it comes to this. I don't have knowledge in working in the app industry, but as a consumer and as a gamer myself, that's how I view it. Because
yeah,
if I want a complicated game, why would I be on my phone when I have my computer, when I have my
yeah,
consoles? So
yeah. I
I
this
think
is where NFL
I would.
Rivals separates itself from. Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment with the mobile gaming thing. I think it depends on the demographic, right? Like in Asia, people are playing full-blown MMORPGs and stuff like that. So perhaps maybe you want to play an arcade game, but I would assume that there's a lot of people, and I know from the Asian demographic, they like playing RPGs and stuff like that, even MOBAs on their phone, which would be considered more complicated genres. So I think it depends on your target market. So perhaps maybe RDZ is talking, or at least representing the West. So, and given NFL is a Western sport, then yes, you would want to target that arcade genre. But if you were doing something like like for example, League of Legends, they've literally repurposed their game as a mobile game. Very, very simplified still, but MOBAs are not simple games. They're quite complicated. So yeah, I think it just depends on who your target market is what.
But they still simplified the mechanics of it, right?
They simplified the mechanics.
Toned it down.
But there are some there are actually some MMORPGs on mobile, and there's some big RPG games as well that you would argue are quite complicated in terms.
But then,
of
like RDZ said, like, why wouldn't they just like play it on PC then? If they want to play a full blown game, isn't it like the experience just better if you want to play a full version game? Like, I'm kind of referring like maybe that's the exception, or like the kind of minority of games that are kind of still like full games, but on mobile. Because I don't know, maybe we can agree that majority of them is like you said with League of Legends, the game is like the mobile game is a toned down version of an original game, but it's basically it's a simplified mechanics game. And I think the main challenge there for mobile games is like, how do you bring the mechanics down so it's more like simple and easy to play because you're on your phone, but still make it engaging? And I think that's where a mobile game is hard to make.
I think it's a bit of an oversimplification to just say, oh, why don't I just go play it on my PC or console? Like, there are a lot of people who don't have access to high-end builds, so their gaming variety is quite limited. But whereas everyone has a phone, right? And generally speaking, most people have smartphones, and the barrier to entry to most games are going to be quite low just because everyone's got a phone. And I know, like, we've got one friend, RDZ, I have one of our good mates, he has a Mac, and Macs basically can't run many games. And, we've told him multiple times, if you want to game with us, get a PC. But he doesn't want to, buy a computer specifically for gaming.
Mac ecosystem, Apple brainwashed him.
But everyone can play a game on their phone. Like, if I have an Android, you have an iOS, an Apple phone, we can both play the same game. And these days, phones are extremely powerful. So in terms of capturing the entire market, it makes a lot of sense for mobile. Everyone can play mobile games because everyone has a phone. Not everyone has a PC, or at least a PC that is capable of running, good games. Maybe your PC can't run League. Maybe your PC can't run Call of Duty.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good point. That's a fair point there. Okay, Marek, what do you think in terms of because we talked about so RDZ mentioned how one of their main value propositions is that aside compared to a normal game, mobile, where you just spend money in it and you just get entertainment, you get nothing back. RDZ is talking about how in NFL Rivals you can also trade the players. You can also have access to this trading part where you can maybe get something back for your time spent. Do you think for you specifically in your opinion is a game like that also you can play but you can also trade NFTs with it? Does that sound cool, or it doesn't do much for you?
Well, I think it's the core principle of the main reason behind implementing the Web3 stuff into the games. I think is it should be built around the concept of players making some of their money back, or even some portion of the players going full pro and withdrawing more money from the system than they have paid into the system. So yeah, long story short,
I think it's a
not,
valuable aspect to
it's
implement.
not even, I don't think it's even debatable about that.
Okay, so it is something that adds to the value of the game.
For
So it's
sure.
kind of okay. So it kind of go ahead.
The only question is that if we really need blockchain and decentralization to make it work, or maybe it would be better off without the blockchain element, and if they did it the classic way, like games like World of Warcraft did.
Exactly. It's harder to monetize, right? With World of Warcraft and this kind of stuff. You have this black market stuff with the gold being sold on the secondary black market. I guess Web3 makes it more accessible and integrates it in the game. Okay, so let's move on. And like Adi said, if you want to talk a bit about the development, I know you said it's a new game, right? Where are they at in terms of the progress? Who is the team behind? Because it's still pretty new, what's the outlook like?
Yeah, so this is a very, very new game. It was released on the April 22nd, April 26th, right? So it's a very, very new game. It's a fully released game, so it's got all of their modes that they have planned for released. So they've got a few different types of the game that you can play, and by that I mean it's more different types of competition you can play. So for example, there's a campaign mode so you can compete for a Super Bowl championship, and that's against CPU. And then you've got the squads modes, which you're competing against other players, and then you have certain events where you need, I might need a 99 rated quarterback to get into this premium quarterback event where the prize might be a random quarterback from the league, right? So they have those game modes, and they've released all of them, which is fantastic to see, because it's not in beta, it's not in alpha, it's actually fully released.
So everyone can play the game right now.
Everyone can play the game. One of the great advantages of this as well, and this follows on with Marek's point of do we need blockchain, is that they don't have any blockchain related stuff on the app for new players. So if you don't want to engage with the blockchain element, you don't need to engage with it. It's purely there as an option in order to put your players on chain and trade them on a secondary marketplace. If you don't want to, you can have your players just sitting there on the app, and you can just open up packs and earn your players through packs, through challenges, and as I said, events that happen and stuff like that. So you don't need to engage with the secondary market. You don't need a wallet. You don't need anything really to play this game, which is a big advantage, obviously, because no one wants to deal with the wallets and seed phrases and all that sort of stuff. As we all know, that's quite a big barrier to entry for people getting into the space.
Yeah.
In terms of roadmap, they have no roadmap. So it's not something that they've released, which is quite unique, obviously, in crypto gaming, because we see a lot of projects, they release all sorts of roadmaps and things that they want to implement. These guys haven't done that, which is usually a red flag, actually. But in this case, I think, given the fact that they have a fully released game, I don't think it's actually that much of a red flag, because once you've released the game, now it's about updates and it's about game modes and it's about little things here and there, which is often on the go anyway. It's often ad hoc base.
Yeah.
So in terms of team experience, I was actually quite impressed with their team experience. It makes sense because this is a game that's developed by Mythical Games, and they already have a fully working crypto game title called Blankos Block Party, which we've actually reviewed and gone through as well at Gameonomics. Now,
Yes.
this is a title that's on the Epic Store. It's one of the biggest games in crypto in terms of players played as well, and in terms of downloads as well. They have their own, and obviously, as I said, Mythical Games not only has Blankos Block Party, but they are quite a big game studio in developing quite a few other games. And based off of that, they have their own network, right? They have their own chain, Mythical Chain. I can get into it, but you know, it's more on.
I want to first ask, like, Rick, on that, because you bring in like here an important point where it sounds like this like Mythical Games, they have their own approach to Web3 gaming, right? Like with Blankos as well, they have this approach of hey, let's not put the Web3 element aggressively in people's faces. Let's actually make it like a subtle thing in the game. They do seem okay, so this does reflect in the current game as well, not only in Blankos but also here in NFL Rivals. Ricky, what do you think about their philosophy? What do you think about this approach of maybe lowering the barrier to entry, and then like making the Web3 elements of the game just not being the highlight of the game? What do you think about their strategy here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes without saying, right? The less, I mean, yeah, once again, I think it depends on your demographic. I've kind of switched thought process a lot on this. Originally, I thought, we need to have mainstream. And then recently I've kind of been like, oh, maybe it's actually just better for Web3. Maybe the 100 whales that have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend is actually better from an investment perspective, obviously not for a game perspective. But
Yes.
This one's a little bit different, right? Because we're targeting your average Joe, some NFL guru, like fan who, wants to, I don't know, play his favorite players and whatnot. So in this case, yes, mainstream gamers. So yes, obviously, less blockchain, the better. But then I guess we go back to Marek's point earlier. It's like, do we need blockchain to do this? Why can't they just make NFL Rivals without it? So yeah, it's a little bit confusing. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the less technical stuff involved, the better.
So maybe it sounds like you're saying like it depends on who your target audience is. If you're like how aggressively you're implementing a Web3 game, or like what kind of gaming genre you're trying to make, because like at the same time, like what we're doing here is like, hey, okay, Blankos, NFL Rivals, they're just like targeting like gamers in general. It feels like not specifically like Web3 gaming, because they don't have like a big element of the game, like really like here, the collectible aspect. Okay, that's a decent part of it, but you can also spend stuff in game, right? You can just buy from the store. You don't have the blockchain elements as integrated. So you have this approach, but then you also have the approach where it's built around the blockchain. It's built, and like that version makes sense for, like you say, like the collectible, like the card games, and like some more games like Illuvium is trying to build, like where they are building on the Web3 platform primarily. And I feel like there are niches, like we were discussing, there are niches where they can really benefit from this. And I think that's how Web3 gaming takes off, when Web3 gaming can find like a specific good use case that brings the value of a game up. So I think, yeah, like that's kind of like what's like it's interesting to clarify here. Having the Web3 elements, yeah, in the background, it doesn't really. So are we even categorizing this as a crypto game, or are we categorizing this as a mainstream game with a bit of crypto elements? How do you guys see that?
Yeah, I'd probably
This
say
Blancos.
yeah, I'd say mainstream game with crypto elements as opposed to crypto game with trying to target mainstream, right? I think that's probably the best way to explain it. Just one other thing with Blancos Block Party. I thought their model was quite good. Literally no token. Games creators get actually no, creators did not get rewarded. Have a game and sell NFTs through your traditional distribution methods, but then at the same time you can then, if you want to, trade them on the secondary. That's a good system. Unfortunately, I mean, RDZ will go into a little bit more, but it seems like they've made NFL Rivals a little bit more complicated. They've recently brought out a Myth token, which throws a lot of spanners in the works. You can only use that token in the marketplace, creates a bit more friction, blah, blah, blah. So are they really making it more accessible? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the money is going to come from the secondary marketplace as well. And if they make the secondary marketplace more difficult to access or to use, that might hinder them. I'm not too
RDZ,
sure.
do you think, I'm actually curious, like RDZ, because you had like more experience here with the game, do you think their secondary market stuff is more complex than the Blancos one from like first class?
Okay, just to go into tokenomics a little bit. So Blancos and NFL Rivals actually have the same secondary market system, right? They are both part of the Mythical Games marketplace, right? And the Mythical Games marketplace, you can only use the Mythos token to purchase their NFTs, and that includes both NFL Rivals and Blancos Block Party, right? Now, the reason why that, as Ricky said, can cause a bit of friction is obviously it limits the currency that you can use to purchase things, and it also forces you to buy a currency that, to be perfectly honest with you guys, does nothing, but they just
like does it do anything for
so
the user, like having to go through the extra steps of like buying the currency? Does it do something for
it's
the
literally
user, or
only
does it like
to
add
have
complexity?
It doesn't add complexity, because all you need to do really is load up your USD and they will transfer it for you on the Mythical Place marketplace. But then the question becomes, well, why do you have the token in the first place? Why is it necessary to have this token in the first place? And I would love to, and I tried to get a few people from NFL Rivals on this stream, but they were a bit worried about time differences. Unfortunately, it's like 4 a.m. for them. So fair enough, they couldn't come on board. But I would love to talk to some of these developers about these decisions when it comes to tokens, because the Mythos token, as I said, its only use is to transfer USD into this token so that you can buy an NFT. Now, for me, that just seems like it's just a token for the sake of a token. Now you're going to tell me, okay, we've got governance, and we're trying to create an ecosystem where Mythos token will be not only for NFL Rivals, but then it'll be for Blancos Block Party, and then another game and another game. But it doesn't add anything to the whole experience, right? And there's no current utility behind governance. We know that governance is a bit of a sham in its current form. Until we are proven otherwise, we're going to assume that as well. So when you take all of these things into consideration...
Sorry, do you want to just explain why, like, it's very easy to say it's a sham, but do you want to explain why you think it's a sham?
Yeah. So we've gone over this a few times on our channel and discussed it on a few live streams as well. But there have been governance basically means that your tokens are also a vote, right? You can vote on certain things that happen, right? In when it comes to the project. Now we've had multiple situations in the past on various networks where you have a proposal where you can vote on and you can change the outcome, or you can use your tokens, and that is one of the big values that a developer and a team says is behind a token, right? But after the vote, the developer turns around and says, well, we're actually not going to do this vote, right? This vote was just a test, or this vote is going to be overturned, or whatever it may be, right? So at the end of the day, it's a little bit of a sham in that sense because they have the power and they have the ability to stop it. It's not inherent in the contract that this vote will have to change this in the code. It's still up to the developer to make the final say. So in that sense, even though governance is seen as quite a decentralized and community and to simplify game communities, all this sort of stuff, all these buzzwords, it doesn't necessarily need to have that. It doesn't necessarily need to be implemented. So that's one of the big problems with governance. And we've seen, I'm not just talking theoretically here, we've seen a few examples of this in the Ethereum network. We've seen the Arbitrum network do this as well. And a lot of the time, it's quite obvious what they're trying to do, but they still do it anyway, and they get the bad backlash from the community. But a lot of the time, they don't care, and even if they do care, they'll just change it and say we made a mistake. But yeah, that's why I'm saying it's a sham. On top of that, if we're talking about Mythos specifically, when you actually have a look at their Mythos Foundation website and you go to their proposals, I mean, they've got one proposal that ended 4 weeks ago, right? And it was 100% for and 0% against. So everyone that voted in this proposal apparently was for this this DAO. So I'm not exactly sure what that really, why
So
that
do we
really
think
is.
this is they're just like implementing this DAO thing just to be cool, or do you think because it's like a
I
buzzword,
think
or
so.
do we think this is actually just actually useful?
Look, to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because we don't know, but to give a bit of a benefit of the doubt, maybe they've implemented it for the future, and this is a start to it, and they want to see what they can do with governance. But in its current form, not only have they only done one vote, which was 100% for, 0% against, there's only been one ever vote. The DAO, apparently, when you go to the DAO, it has 48 members, right, which is nothing. Right. And then on top of that, we don't know how the Mythos token is distributed. We don't know if 20% goes to the team and then 30% is saved up for a future date for initial stage investors, and then 40% is for the marketplace liquidity. We don't know any of that. We don't know how it's distributed at all. So for all we know, 100% of this is controlled by Mythical Games, and then they will do as they please with it. Now, why is this dangerous, right? Why does that matter? Because essentially all you're doing on the secondary market is giving them USD anyway, right? Well, what happens if I spent all of this money on 10 cards, 10 of my favorite cards, I spent 1,000 USD, but the only way to convert them back is through the Mythos token, and I have to convert, 1,000 USD worth of cards back into Mythos, and then into my USD to get into my bank account. Well, what happens if the market is manipulated, or some people are dumping just in the moment of when I'm selling, and then now my Mythos is not worth the same amount of USD as I sold it for? And you get all these sort of situations that might arise with a token like this. So that's one of the reasons why the whole governance thing, in my opinion, is a sham. Because we don't know the distribution, which, as I said, as I gave an example of, also feeds into the value of the token and how it could impact people on the secondary market. And then secondly, the token itself has no other utility.
Hmm.
So that's why I say,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a sham. And initially I said it was the governance that's a sham, but the more I'm talking about it, you guys can probably guess that the whole thing is a bit of a sham.
Yeah. Okay. The token part does seem kind of shady and weird. Like the lack of transparency there, it's a bit concerning. Ricky, do you think we look back at DAOs like in a few years and feel like, because I know you had like more experience with like the Illuvian DAO and like all of this, do you think we're gonna look back on them and say like, that was just like a phase or like a trend or like that did not really bring like that much benefit and it was just like a cool thing at the time, but then it just died and it will have like died off by then?
That's a good question. I think DAOs are an interesting one because they're basically what we have with governments, right? Like it is effectively a democratic party. We all, well, some countries anyway, most countries anyway, as a citizen, you have the right to vote for which party you wanted to represent you in terms of regulatory things and, economics.
How did it like just like a quick off topic to like curious here with Road and RD said, like how did the Turkey elections go?
They're actually going on again now. So that
Oh.
so in Turkey, the election is that you've got to have at least 50% of the votes to be elected. And so no one got to 50%. It was very close at 48. So now they have to redo it. And I think it's happening on tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The
Like,
second election, yeah.
the Turkey DAO in
Yeah.
action. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I was curious for some insights from there. So okay, yeah, going back to there. So,
Actually, sorry,
oh,
to give you guys a bit of more of an update. It actually happened yesterday. I'm wrong.
oh,
And it looks like Erdogan is going to remain the Turkish president, who has completely destroyed the economy and knows nothing about monetary policy. But go for your lives, man. I'm in Australia. I'm in the best country in the world. I don't give a fuck. Go for it, brother. Destroy it. Who gives a fuck?
I was
yeah.
actually surprised you didn't know that the election was held yesterday because even in Polish television we've been already informed that Erdogan won.
As I said, man,
Yeah.
me and Ricky, we live 20 hours away and we don't give a fuck, man. We
Yeah.
live in the best country in the world by far. So I
Okay.
unfortunately,
Marek being more
Turkish
Turkish than
people.
you.
Yeah. Marek is more Turkish than me, even though I'm going there in a month, but it is what it is.
Okay. So that's an example where the DAO doesn't really work. With the Turkey example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to your point, Ricky. So you're kind of like comparing this like to a democratic system for like
Yeah,
making
well,
decisions.
so democratic systems, someone's always going to complain. Like we've been running, a democracy for God knows how long, and there's always one side that's going to complain. And I feel like that's the same thing that's happening in Web3. There's going to be things that DAOs do well, and then there's things that DAOs do poorly. Now let's tie this into gaming more specifically. Do we need DAOs in gaming? I think DAOs actually make more sense. I mean, like a good example with this, Turkish election, being able to see all the votes on chain would be interesting, whereas everything here is behind closed doors. As a citizen of a country, I would like to see the back end because, let's be honest, as a citizen, you don't know shit about what's going on. So that's a good example of why blockchain is beneficial, because you can see like, oh, hang on, wait a minute, there's like, you can look at suspicious activity. Yes, people are anonymous, but how anonymous are you, particularly now that we have better technology coming in? AI is better at, cross-checking, validating who you are, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
so in that sense,
for
yes.
the anonymous part of crypto.
That's why they are not going to implement it in the election process.
What are you
Of
trying to say,
course
Marek?
I mean, look,
Nothing.
this is one of the big reasons why, things on chain are so important, as you said, Ricky. Like having all of that very clear. There's no way to duplicate. There's no way to scam it. Well, look, there is ways to scam it, but you can see the ways to scam it. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, with the Turkish election, 52% of the vote goes to Erdogan, 48% of the vote goes to the opposition leader, which is interesting in itself because that's almost like where the other votes going, bruv. You know what I mean? So it's just, I guess it's just the two parties. That's it. So that's two parties. That's it. And yeah, like they say that they're opening ballots. 99% of the ballots were open, but you know, who knows if they threw out a few ballots or burnt a few ballots? You just don't know. You don't know. You're trusting them to tell the
they're
truth.
basically saying, hey, yeah, we did that. Just trust us. We did that. Yeah.
And let's be honest, we've seen multiple times where the governments have lied. So whatever, man. The world is a sham. Money is a lie. Nothing means anything anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, to bring it back on topic, I don't want to go. We're not a political channel, but yeah. But basically, what I'm trying to say is there are some benefits with DAOs, right? Like when it's on chain, because it is basically a government, a democracy, whatever. The problem is when it comes to gaming, right? We don't need a DAO. Like, I'll give Illuvium's a good example of how a DAO makes the development process more inefficient, right? We're literally voting, or people are creating proposals on, like, there was one thing, I don't think there was a proposal, but there was talks of things like people wanting to make a proposal to not allow Kieran's the co-founder of Illuvium, to make tweets without getting permission from the DAO. Like, that's just ridiculous, right? And that's like, you know, that's too much. Like, that's just going to slow the whole system down. Like, if he has to get permission to speak about a development thing on a podcast with God knows who know, you know, like that's just not efficient use of the DAO. Like, yes, that would be like pure decentralization. Like, you know, that's pure democracy, but sometimes pure democracy is not what we need, right?
Yeah.
So in a gaming
So you're
sense,
saying maybe we're onto something with the DAOs, but we still have to like refine.
Yeah. And I think the DAO, like we're early on with DAOs, and, you know, examples of Illuvium goes to show that, okay, that's too much. And like, that's literally been put in practice. It's too much. And then the next big, you know, AAA Web3 gaming studio that comes along goes, okay, we're going to do everything Illuvium did well, but we're also just going to get rid of all the things Illuvium did poorly. And I think one of the things they would look at is like, we are not doing a DAO. Now, there's a few reasons why Illuvium's done a DAO as well. There's tax reasons. So they don't have to pay tax because they're not technically a corporation. So that's a good example of why a DAO could be advantageous. That could get patched by the government somehow. I'm sure it will. So that's probably a short-term advantage.
Nerfing DAOs.
Yeah. But I think there is a place for DAOs in gaming though, and it comes more so to balance and game updates, right? So at the end of the day, gamers know the best about the meta. Like, I don't care if you're the best game designer in the world. A group of players who play the game 16 hours a day is going to be better at identifying meta trends, things that are broken within the game, than the person who created the game. Like, I think that is pretty clear. Like, just because you created a game doesn't mean that you've got a perfect system. The people who play the game, or potentially a group of players who play the game hardcore 16 hours a day, and there are quite a lot of them, they're going to know how to actually move the game in the right direction. So in those scenarios, and we always, I think RDZ and I always use Jagex as a good example, the voting on new game updates is a fantastic way to leverage voting, right? Let's say with Illuvium, right? For example, we have, let's say there's Ramfire is really broken in the game. It's ruining everyone's experience in PvP, blah, blah, blah. And the game developers go, okay, here are the 10 things that are going to happen in this next patch. And Ramfire is actually going to get a buff. And everyone's going to be like, what the fuck? Like, why are you buffing Ramfire? And I'm talking elite players are like, dude, it is one of the most broken alluvials in the game. It needs to get nerfed. All those players have tokens. They get to vote. bang, that buff is not going through because they know that that's going to ruin the game. And the developers don't know that because they're spending 16 hours of their day developing the game. They're not playing the game. And like I said, theoretically designing the game doesn't mean you're good. And that's why I think Jagex did really well is they were bringing on like big YouTubers like Torvesta to come in. Bodhi was another example. They come in and they literally advise the team like, hey, based on my gaming experience, I think these things could be better, or I think these things are good. Don't change this. And that's where the voting is crucial, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think these are like really good points. I really like your points on DAOs, your ideas there. And yeah, we definitely have to do like a full like podcast and it's like a full episode. And yeah, like you said, maybe we bring some people on because this like DAOs like a huge thing in like the crypto gaming space. And I think there's a lot to discuss there. So yeah, we should definitely go in depth at some point. Even though, yeah, you did bring a lot of good points.
So sorry, just to quickly tie this, because I went a little bit off topic, to tie it back to NFL Rivals and Mythos, Mythical Games, sorry. Do NFL, like people playing NFL Rivals having voting rights in the Mythical Games Foundation does not improve their gaming experience because these tokens are not going to be directly, you're not going to be voting on the direction of NFL Rivals. Perhaps you might actually vote on the development on NFL Rivals. But like I said, I don't think we need to be voting on the development. Let Mythical Games handle the development. If Mythical Games gives you the option to be like, hey, should we look at balancing, because like I've played NFL Rivals and the most the most overpowered tactic is to literally always pass. So perhaps Mythical Games, you know, a couple of players come together and go, hey, look, passing needs to get nerfed. And then Mythical Games comes back, they write up a proposal, like a couple of changes. And then these players can be like, yep, I think nerfing passing is good. Let's give more power to the running backs. Perhaps like there's some new ability that allows them to dodge players or whatever. And that way we can get a little bit more balance in the game. Perfect way to use the votes. But in its current form, I don't think that's how it is. I believe it's literally going to be on development related things. And I just don't think gamers need to be involved in the development process because inherently by buying NFL Rivals NFTs, you will be holding Mythos token. And as a result, you have rights to vote. But it's just not the right market. It's not the right target.
Yeah. Do you agree there, RTZ? Like, do you agree with his points? Or...
Yeah,
okay.
I do. I think honestly, to conclude, I think it's because we've already had nearly 70 minutes in the stream. I think to conclude, I think there are some very interesting possibilities in this game. I think when it comes to the Web3 crypto component, I don't really see it interfering with the game. I feel like there are a few things that are a few issues with the crypto Web3 component. If you do want to engage with it, some of which we've already gone through. I think the token is a little bit useless. I think the marketplace is a little bit limiting. But in general, I can see the direction that
touch a
Mythical
bit on
Games
the
is going
gameplay
in.
because you did play a bit and like talk a bit like in the end here, like with like your
Yeah.
experience playing the game. And
Yeah.
if you
I think it's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
So being from Australia, obviously we're not super exposed to the NFL, maybe a little bit more than some of you guys because it's more of a contact sport and we have rugby, so it's a little bit comparable in that it's violent, right? But I did enjoy playing this game because of it, not that not because I know about NFL, but because of its simplicity and quick games that you can play, right? So and I have a little bit of bias in terms of the collectability component. The presence of NFTs and stuff like that is also quite interesting. I did buy a pack, but I haven't actually put it on the market or listed it or anything like that. But I think my pack that I bought was for $8 Australian, and then my card was $3 Australian. So, and I use my card every time I play. So I've got a little bit of money that I got back for it. But yeah, I think
do you see yourself
the
like
actual
playing this
gameplay,
game like long
yeah,
term?
I think the gameplay is really interesting. It's like a joystick arcade style, as we kind of touched on before. It's got a slider, a a power and angle slider for as the quarterback is throwing the ball, and I think that makes it quite a nice touch to the gameplay because it's tactical, but it's smooth, if that makes sense, right? It feels nice. It feels nice executing a move. It feels smooth doing so, but it's also tactical. I've got to find the right angle. I've got to wait for the right runner. So I think that part of it is fantastic. To answer your question more directly, would I play it in the long term? I think it's a game that after a week, I basically played it every day for a week, right? The first week I had it, it was engaging enough for me because I was getting achievements, I was getting free packs, I was building my team, I was moving towards the NFL, NFL Super Bowl, sorry, I was trying to win that. Once I did all those things, it became a little bit easier. And then I also reached a bit of a cap where I need better players, right? So I've lost a little bit of interest in that in the game because of those reasons. To add to it as well, the multiplayer modes are not actually against other players. They are against the other player's team, but the team is controlled by CPU. So I think that adds that part of it. I don't like that much because essentially it's whoever has the better team has the best chance to win, because it's really hard to verse a guy with a very strong team because their defense is really good and then their offense just scores every time against my shit defense, right? Because it's CPU. So there are a few issues with the game, and I think difficulty is one of them. Multiplayer is one of them. And generally speaking, of all those things that excited me about the game in the first week, I lost a little bit of. But in saying that, going back to the simple gameplay part of the game, I find myself once in a while getting a notification from NFL Rivals and then saying, oh, I want to play a game. I feel like playing a game. And because of the way the gameplay is designed, it makes it quite fun to just get on and, try to find a few angles with a throw, trying to run around a few players, and spend 2-3 minutes per game. And I'll play maybe 4 or 5 games and then do something else. So in terms of long-term playability, I see myself coming back to the game, but there are a few things that they need to add to the game, in my opinion, to get me to come back every day. I think a few people in the community do have those reasons. They actively open packs, they actively compete on leaderboards to try to get rewards. And I can see if it gets to a point where they can find that balance of hardcore players and casuals, then this is the sort of game that people will come back to. And I see a very active community as well. I mean, once again, I mentioned this in the video, but if you go into the NFL Rivals, if you go into YouTube and type NFL Rivals, it's got people making content from 2 weeks ago, 1 month ago when it was first released, a few days ago. It's there's a lot of content being made on this game. Now, I'm going to film a video tomorrow about another project, Alien Worlds, and they supposedly have the most unique active wallets and most gamers that play their game, and their game has been out since 2021. This game has only been released for a month. You type in Alien Worlds on YouTube and you've got videos from 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago. You would be, I would, I'll give you a fucking present if you can find a video from the last 6 days. Do you know what I mean? And this is supposedly a game that is the most active in the crypto space. So that's one of the big advantages about NFL Rivals in terms of its community, that there's people making content, there's people engaging, and I think the reason for that is that the game is quite playable.
Yeah. Okay. Did you, Ricky, did you play the game?
Yeah, I've actually played the
get
game.
like a second opinion.
I think I would. I definitely didn't play it as long as RDZ. I probably played it for 1 day. For me, I think the fact that, I mean, we didn't really touch on it too much in this stream, but in RDZ's video, if you guys haven't watched it, go check out the video. He talks about the difficulty, and it was just so easy. Like, every single time, like, the strategy is do the passing play, look for the longest runner at the top, and just, after, like, if you miss it the first time, you're going to get it the second time. If you miss it the second time, you're going to get it the third time. You basically always will score on a play. So that was probably one of the reasons why I stopped playing. But I do think.
So you are saying your gaming skills are vastly superior to RDZ's?
No, I'm not
like
saying
too
that.
easy
I
for
just
you.
think I think the game is just easy for anyone. I mean, that being said, the mechanics are good. Like, it feels really satisfying getting the pass. Like, when you throw the ball, and it's so smooth. The gameplay mechanics are very smooth. I would say the running is a little bit off. I don't particularly like how slow you run, and then you have to like double tap to sprint. That's a little bit janky. But overall, I'd say the gameplay is good. For me, I would like to see a PvP element. I would like to see a proper PvP element. You do like a 2-minute game against someone at offense and defense. Even if the defense is as simple as, I don't know, getting the players in the right position before the play starts. Like, some sort of involvement in the defense. I know that it's an arcade style. You just want to do the offense because, let's be honest, offense is more fun. But if you're doing PvP, some sort of strategy, maybe you set up, okay, we're going to have the players in these positions, blah, blah, blah. That might be good. But I think overall it has potential. It's a decent foundation. The graphics are not amazing, but once again, it is mobile. So, your expectations are not super high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's good. Like, I wouldn't play it personally. Maybe because I'm not super into NFL. I do like the Dallas Cowboys. That is my NFL team. I watch a couple of their games, but I'm not going to... for me, I didn't really get into it, to be honest.
Okay. So mainly, like, it seems like the PvP aspect is kind of lacking. It's like the lack of like multiplayer, like true multiplayer, is a bit of a letdown. And I can see how that's like a big element, right? Like, when you're playing, it's like the most fun is like playing FIFA with a friend, right? Like playing against a friend, and that's like what makes the game the most fun. So I guess this has some potential. There are some like benefits you guys listed here, but they still have to implement well in terms of like managing the difficulty, progression there, and especially integrating the multiplayer elements in the best way possible there. Yeah.
I think, just add a little bit more PvP. I think it'll be good. But yeah, I mean, also I'm not really big into single player games as well, so you've got to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, it is a game that seems like it's probably suited for competition. It's a competitive game. It's suited to like play against others and like crush them. Probably it adds a lot of, at least for me, as well. Like, I don't really play single player. That probably adds quite a bit of enjoyment element to the game. Especially as it's supposed, you have this trading element, the collectible element, like playing like it's more of a motivation to beat others, to like trade. I think it makes you trade more in terms of like building a good team when you have to like use this team against others. So okay. Do you guys want to add something else on the game here, on the project, or are we wrapping this up here? We've been going for a good time.
Yeah, I think we've gone through some good discussion, so happy to wrap it up.
Okay, let's wrap it up then. I think we touched on like a lot of interesting topics. We touched about on like the DAO elements. We touched on the tokenomics being a bit weird here, but we touched on a lot of concepts around NFL rivals, but again, like you guys said as well, we also have the condensed video. If you just want to see like the facts here is here in these sections, we kind of like riff a bit with each other and like discuss. This is how we learn. Actually, this is a big part of how we also improve in the space, and like sharing this process with you guys as well, where we discuss different elements, discuss different concepts in Web3 gaming to get better. But if you want to like the toned down version, the strictly the strict nice smooth analysis done by RDZ, we have the video for that as well. Probably will be putting that in the description here to find it easily. But hope you guys are enjoying these kind of discussions here as well. Always welcome to join in the chat, say hi, and like have some good yeah, it's a good back and forth. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Like our video, we have like the 3 likes from us here. Like it's not even 4 likes. Someone here did not like the video in this live stream. So yeah, like the video, sub to us. We play around here, but yeah, we take Web3 gaming very seriously. We do a lot of research on it, and we have quite a bit of experience already. And I think, yeah, there's many more cool things to come. So that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.